Shawna Coronado, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
I am ready to fearlessly question.
I don't know if I should interpret that laugh as like you're taunting me or if you're just a
I'm
little nervous.
terrified,
All
right?
right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I have to. I'll start off the show by saying I have to say I noticed that, and I asked you right before we started this thing. You are probably one of the most prolific hand talkers I've come across, even surpassing my abilities, and I have to admire that because I, being somebody who relies on his hands far too much, I
I
don't
am
know.
a hand talker without a doubt.
But that's neither here nor there, and I won't embellish your hand talking skills any more than need be. Um, Before we really get into it, let's just loosen things up a little bit. Again, judging on a previous conversation we had, I wanted to know the first kind of fake fearless question to you. What is your like most impressive, coolest story that you could tell somebody? Because you shared a story with me. I said I don't have anything that cool. What is? Do you have a story cooler than that?
I think that I don't know if you'd call it cool or not, but one of the coolest things about having a front lawn vegetable garden. So I have a lot of social media fans, and they all follow me partially because I do culinary and I also do gardening, and I try to teach people how to make a difference. And so I grow this front lawn vegetable garden. It's about 20 by 20, and I donate over 150 pounds of food every year to my local food pantry from it. And so I've had several PBS television shows come to my front lawn vegetable garden to film. And so that's been kind of remarkable. It's totally a different experience. Like when I do my YouTube videos, and I have about 200 videos out on YouTube, and when I do them, I am like totally, it's me in a tripod, man. It is nothing fancy. It's me doing my thing in my front lawn, and or I'm whipping up cocktails. I literally set up a table in my front lawn and do my thing. But having an entire television crew come, and there's a team, and there's concerns about where donuts are, and who's going to feed me, and all of this is never, it was never something that I did until the last year or so, and having the PBS TV teams come in was pretty darn cool.
Well, that definitely one-ups me. No PBS TV crew in my front or backyard. That has not happened.
Super cool.
But yeah, the other story you told me was you'd been approached by Google to do like one of the first Hangouts, and I really want I've been approached by Google story. I just want to be able to say I've been approached by Google. Hopefully, it's not like an NC-17 movie where I'm not sure where it's going to go. But
Right. No, no.
but
No, I was approached by Google. This was really cool. Back when people didn't know what Hangouts were, back in the day, and they were trying to promote Hangouts, they started that whole marketing Hangout division. And so I was approached by a team because they didn't have a lot of people that were doing culinary or gardening at the time. And in fact, I mean, there were very few Google Hangouts at all. And so they came out, they actually brought the super cool mic, like, one of the really big mics out to my home and set it up out here for me because I didn't know how to do can you believe it? Because I was too illiterate to figure out how to do a
I
hangout.
mean, if you're one of the first ones, I mean, cut yourself some slack, right? I mean,
And
a
no
little
one
bit,
knew
right?
what to do, and then it was outside, so there was wind and airplanes and all this dramatic everything. And so they came out and set me up. So later on in my experience with Google, and I love Google, they've been fantastic to me, and I support them wholly. I got to go down and actually speak at Google, and we had a Google Plus Hangout that was about 30 minutes long and did a roundabout sort of Google speech with culinary and garden experts. And again, it was one of the first times that ever happened. Well, now it's a whole different world. We have culinary people that are doing 5 Google Hangouts a week and are showing all these super cool foods and connecting with people in unique ways. And so it's really evolved a tremendous amount. Now, I still do Hangouts, obviously, here I am, once in a while. I'm more likely to do YouTube videos where it's alive in the garden. It's tougher to do a Hangout live in the garden with wind and things that you can't predict. It's possible, obviously, but it's really a challenge for me. So I like to do the direct YouTube videos instead.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both, and I think we could probably share our loves for both of those. But again, I can pretty much put my self-esteem in a very tiny plastic bag now after you've spoken for a few minutes, and I will do my best not to let that drag the show down. But, Shawna, why don't we just catch everybody up real quick? Can you tell everybody your story as it relates to fearlessly questioning, doing what's best?
All right, so I have to tell you my whole story in a nutshell because it started back in 2007. I left a very high-end marketing job where I made a lot of money doing sales and marketing in the recruiting industry. And I worked from dark until dark. You know, that was my day, and I was really unhappy. And I took over a dozen prescriptions a day and was completely miserable. And I went into the office. The boss had asked me to work more hours, and we had a giant argument. And I quit my job. Well, it was I quit, you're fired. You know, in all frankness. And I'm like, fine, I'm fired. It's okay with me. And I'm riding home on the train, calling my husband. That was a hard conversation to have, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm never doing that again. I need to do something that I'm passionate about. And so that summer, I had been writing on the side a little gardening column in the local newspaper. And that summer, I started doing landscape design without any previous experience in it. It was quite a learning experience. And I did very well that first year. So well, in fact, that I went from taking over a dozen prescriptions a day down to 2 prescriptions a day. And I realized that my life had been changed forever. And so that began my journey online because I wanted to then document the experience. I wrote a book. It sounds very naughty. I don't know. I don't think I have a copy of it right here. But it was called Gardening Nude, which it wasn't about naked gardening at all. It was about green lifestyle living, you know, stripping away all those difficult things and making it happen. And I had started living a greener lifestyle, eating more organic, and doing more healthy things for my body. So, how do you market a book when you have no money? Your job pays you pittance. You know, there was no way that I could market a book in a traditional fashion. So a friend of mine said, you have to do Facebook and Twitter. And I'm like, I'm not doing Facebook and stupid Twitter. And guess what? It was probably one of the smartest things I did. I started doing Facebook and Twitter. I built a website. I started a blog. And for the first 3 years, not a single person wanted to see me. You know, I just kept plugging away, hammering out the blogs. And I'm like, eventually I'm going to get better at this. Well, now I've written, since 2008, I've written over 1,000 blog posts. I've written for major online sources, you know, the Chicago Tribune and Better Homes and Gardens. And I went from self-publishing a book to now having publishers ask me to write books for them. In total, I've published 4 books, 4 ebooks. And the entire career is based on that conceptual idea of fearlessly questioning traditional health, doing social good, and helping others. That's my #1 goal. And if I can make a living also doing something good, then I feel like I've truly accomplished something personally. So now I'm down to 1 prescription a day after all those years. I feel like $1 million. I work way more hours than I ever did when I worked for a traditional marketing firm, and I love my job. It's the best job on earth. And what makes it the best are those 300,000 people that follow me. It's connecting individually with as many people as possible. It does my heart good. I feel happy because I have touched lives and they touch mine. It really makes a difference.
Well, you'll be happy to know that one, every guest that uses the show name in the title gets an extra bonus check, so that'll be in the mail. And, you know, but in all seriousness, I want to go back to the prescription medication because that's fascinating to me. Because you may or may not know, in my spare time, actually, my day job, I actually sell health insurance, which you may or may not. You may or may not want to throw rotten tomatoes people in the audience. I mean, a lot of people that know me know that's what I do.
That's so funny, Joey. It's really funny.
I'm gonna probably just lay in bed at night thinking, trying to laugh at me the whole time. I don't know what that means about the interview,
but it's so funny.
But anyway, so my point of this is that I talk to people all the time that are on a dozen medications, and they're always telling me how I've got to how they've got so much cost in this medicine and they're overweight and they're unhappy. And I was like, it's not. I mean, I'm the health insurance agent. I'm not their nutritionist, but sometimes it slips out. It's like, well, what do we think about maybe trying to get rid of some of these things? Can we maybe, because that's obviously going to help reduce your cost. I mean, I can't work miracles. I mean, talk about the fact that you didn't accept that as like just like a fact of life that was going to just be there until you die. That you said like, listen, and I guess was it more or less a transition from just removing yourself from the working environment, or was it in collaboration with the change in
It was in collaboration. Here was a significant thing that happened. Okay, first of all, a lot of the medications that I was on was for year-round bronchitis. I have asthma, severe allergies to everything. I mean, I'm allergic to the world. It's ridiculous and it's horrible. And trying to live with those type of allergies is devastating, and is actually devastating to the health insurance industry. The amount of money that people have to pay is not just about being overweight and smokers and all that sort of thing. It's also like I'm eating, I put two and two together and realized I'm eating a lot of foods with chemicals. I like boxed cereals. I like things that have, I like my macaroni and cheese. I like stuff that you got in a box. Well, those things have a lot of chemicals in it. What if, when I left the company, I started thinking, what if I actually reduce the amount of chemicals I consume? Like, instead of eating the macaroni and cheese that has all the fake cheese stuff on it, what about I get some macaroni? And first of all, I'm allergic to cheese. So first of all, forget the cheese.
Shawna, that's not a very good combination right there.
Yeah, right. Forget the cheese. Why don't I just eat the macaroni with some good meat on the side? Why don't I grow some herbs and I could mix it in instead of using artificial ingredients? I could throw my own herbs on. And what I discovered is, wow, it tastes so much better and it felt better. And so as time went on, I'm like, okay, well, I got the foods reduced. What else can I reduce in my house? I kept getting sick every time I went into my laundry room. And so finally I went to my husband and I'm like, listen, we're going to remodel that laundry room. I am sure it's filled with molds. Absolutely convinced. And mold's one of my allergies. I know it. And so he freaks out because, that's a lot of money to remodel the laundry. So he runs into the laundry room and he's like, what can we change? What's going on? And what he found out is all the chemicals in the house, the household chemicals, we're talking not all big things, we're talking like bleach, Lysol, the normal things, not shampoo, clothes, soap, like normal things that everybody has out. And he came out of the laundry room and he said, it's the laundry stuff, it's the chemicals. He said, I know it. And so we went out and got a couple of big boxes and we put every chemical that we had in the basement in the laundry room away. The next day, I went in, I wasn't dizzy, I didn't feel sick, everything was good. Well, that laundry room is directly below my bedroom, and heat rises and fumes rise, and I wonder, could some of those chemicals have been, rising up through our floors and actually hitting me? Because once we started storing all that sort of stuff away, and better yet, using it less or not at all, I felt 100% better. So as a health insurance salesman, which I love, it's still so funny. Oh my gosh. Imagine if you could get just 50% of your customers to go organic for their main proteins and to clean up the chemicals in their house. Those just 50%. I personally believe that that would reduce medical bills and problems by a huge amount because I experienced it. I know what it's like to go through this. And so the protein that we eat the most, by the way, that we decided to go organic on, because I can't go on organic on everything. I grow organic, but that's only a certain percentage of the year. I live in Chicago. It's cold in the winter. I can't grow. But protein, so it's chicken, beef, eggs. I would eat eggs 3 times a day if you'd let me. That's how much I love. I wish I had chickens. I don't have chickens yet, but I love them. So I decided if I could pick one thing to spend more money on that's organic, it would be the eggs because we eat them so frequently. And so that's what we did. We went all organic with eggs this year. It's one little step at a time, too. Like you were talking, like if you are sitting in front of somebody who's tremendously overweight, who smokes, who drinks a lot every day, who's, and is not organic in the slightest, hasn't tried anything without chemical, well, that's a huge step for them to try to go all or nothing. And so I recommend that people start with a little bit at a time. Heck, grow your own herbs. It's a small step, but it's better than nothing.
You're far more practical than I am. I have a tendency to be a more all or nothing thing. And it sounds like we have a mini joint venture that we can definitely pursue after our time here together.
Exactly.
But you're going to I pass out fake awards on a pretty regular basis, and you're going to win the award today for keeping me off script the longest for this interview, because we haven't even come close to touching the questions that I wanted to ask.
Wonderful. So my job is complete.
Congratulations. I think there's a lot in there, and so very true to. I want to go back to the allergies and how we are kind of conditioned to treat them, and it's more or less treating the symptom as opposed to the cause, and that drives me nuts. And my son has allergies, so he has an inhaler, and it's me and my wife constantly go back and forth on what's causing them. We had cats, we had to get rid of our cats. We ripped up our carpet, we put hardwood floors down. So all this kind of stuff.
Yes, all of it.
Of kind of helping to alleviate the problem, but also still she doesn't firmly buy in on some of the food stuff, so they'll mix in some of that stuff that might not be the greatest, and so it's a question of trying to get at the root of the thing, and why do we overlook that so much? Why do we want to treat the symptom?
We are a society that wants convenience. Give me a pill. Come on, give me a pill that's going to solve my depression, solve my lack of physical strength, solve my everything. Like bodybuilders are busy trying to take steroids so that they can be stronger and bigger and faster. We always want more and never seem to be satisfied with what we have. I think that ties into it. It's that mentality. And unfortunately, modern societies, American society is very conditioned socially. When we go to a magazine, for instance, we see all these beautiful women and handsome men, same with TV, and we think that that's the way that we need to be. So first of all, if we are overweight, we're unhappy with ourselves because we see all the potential that we're not working for. That we wish that we were more beautiful or more whatever, and we want that. We wish we were richer. We wish we were whatever it is. We want more, right? And then secondly, once we achieve that, we think we'll be happy. That's not where happy comes from. Happy comes from inside and being satisfied with who you are and what you're doing. That's part of the reason that I'm working so hard for that my fearlessly questioning issue is, how can I make a difference every day? When I answer those questions, it makes me a better person inside for myself. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It has only to do with me. And then once you get feeling better about who you are, it's self-confidence, then you can lose the weight. Then you can eat healthier and be a better person that you want to be. That's what makes you happier. But I don't know what the formula is for that, for teaching someone. I do the best that I can, but again, I'm not a health or medical professional. So I'm not in those doctor's meetings with a patient trying to discuss, hey, here's how you're going to be happy. It's a tough one.
Well, let me ask you, and this is my first real fearless question to you then. We're starting 19 minutes into the show here, so kind of jumping off at that point, is it our place then to tell somebody that they're not doing their best?
No. I don't think that it is. It's kind of, let's talk about alcoholism for a minute. You can tell an alcoholic that they're an alcoholic all you want and that they have a drinking problem. Unless they want to truly change and go and seek help to do so, then it's nearly impossible, not totally impossible, but nearly impossible for them to stop drinking and to change their lifestyle. So telling somebody, you're overweight, you need to make a change, you need to do it right, I'm telling you, you need to do it, that's not going to make the change. They have to come to that decision for themselves. So that's why when I write a blog post, I don't tell people it. Instead, I show them the experience. Hey, today I am eating healthier. This is the plate of food that I'm fixing for you, and it is delicious. And here's what and I use no chemicals in it. So the only thing I feel I can do is set an example. And I'm far from perfect. So I also set an example in negative ways. I like to drink martinis in my garden. I don't know if that's a positive. I mean, I am inspiring people to use herbs, but I'm also inspiring people to have a cocktail. Maybe I'm inspiring relaxation. That's it. But I mean, I really enjoy connecting, growing with everyday life. And so I think it's about setting an example. I really do.
And that was going to be kind of my next question. You kind of answered it for me, but basically leading by example is kind of what you came to. And to go to the martini thing, I mean, I want to say this might be, I'm very good at making excuses that sound like they're reasons for doing things. But with the martini thing, could you say, are we each allowed to have like that one selfish thing that's like, listen, like I know this is this thing, but let's just say it's more of a psychological trigger than anything else.
Yeah, so our one indulgence, I agree with that because a girlfriend of mine lost over 100 pounds, and she said she likes chocolate, and she kept her chocolate, and she gave everything else up, but she couldn't resist the chocolate, and she loved it because that was her secret indulgence. Well, I hardly ever have a dessert. Once in a blue moon. I mean, literally, I am not a sweets person, and part of it is involved with my allergies and my health. When I have too many sugars, it shakes me up emotionally. It does something to my system, and I'm grouchy and grumpy and unhappy. And so I don't do a lot of sugar, but I do have a cocktail once in a while, and I make it a fancy one because that's the whole indulgence. That's the fun of it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And although I've heard things that like real like actual real chocolate like is like actually like a like highly antioxidant, if that's the right word.
Oh, absolutly.
So,
Along
I mean,
in the
it's
same
not like
category as blueberries.
yeah, like I heard it's like actually like really good. Like if you're getting real chocolate, that is, of course. But again, neither here nor there. Let's take a break in the action for a second because we are still running way over schedule because you are very informative and laughing at me quite a bit. But Shawna, we give every guest the opportunity to ask the audience their fearless question, something they've always wanted to know the answer to, but we're a little unsure of the response. You have the opportunity to ask that question. What is it?
I ask, what is the one way that you are making a difference in your life? So if we talked about, I have my eggs, I have my one thing, my one protein that I've changed. That's, it's small, but it's significant in our lives. What's the one thing you're doing to make a difference in your life?
All right, and of course, everyone playing along at home, feel free to think about that. If you feel brave enough, feel free to sprinkle those in, and we will feature those as we continue to talk.
Yay!
And I like the eggs thing because I'm an all or nothing guy. So I will literally if I will spend my last dollar on decent food for my family if I had the choice, I guess. So I would encourage people as much as possible to like you said, buy as many things as they can. But if they can't, you got to start somewhere. So then let's go back to kind of the people that we were talking to that we maybe it's not our place to tell them to do to tell them that they're not doing the best, but why is it our first kind of instinct to limit ourselves to what we know or what somebody else knows per se?
What do you mean?
Meaning, like, so much of this conversation, like, well, so and so down the street said, like it's we keep it to like we don't introduce like to say like, well, I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna go find it from somebody else.
We have
we keep it close to the people we know, and we don't feel like going outside the circle.
We have the what they say mentality, all of us. Well, they say, yeah. And of course they is some jerk that we pulled out of our head and have no idea where it came from, no accurate. I can throw this back to when Obama was being elected. When he was running for election, the very first time, he was walking around with a book in his hand that had a title on it that sounded vaguely Middle Eastern. And so there was this big thing going around Facebook that showed this picture and showed him, and all these people were saying he supports the Middle East, the bad Middle East, okay? Like, he supports all these people, and they were making this big scene out of it. but not a single one of those people making those claims had ever done the research to find out that that book was actually more of a documentary explaining different things in culture, and he was trying to learn, which I found, yay, fantastic. That to see one of our leaders walking around who's actually reading up on things and trying to, no matter what your political affiliation is, we want our leaders to be doing that. And so that's a fine example of what you're trying to say, is that why is it that no one's willing to do the research? I'm willing to do the research. For me, if I find out, for example, the whole allergy thing, I am allergic to molds. So for years, I thought that meant the environmental molds, like what's in the air. So in spring, right now is the beginning of mold season for us here in Chicago. And in fall, when the leaves fall and land on the ground, then it rains on top of them. The molds are bounced off the leaves and thrown into the air. And so that was what I thought I was treating in relationship to my allergy. Well, what I found out is that I was still sick all the time. And I would take medications to try and treat it. I would stay inside, away from the molds. It didn't make a difference. And that would be because I was eating pizza. Pizza, the yeast in Chicago-style pizza, like the flat part of the pizza, the breading, is thick with molds, it's the thickest yeast in most any bread. So it's really yeasty, and that's mold. And then, of course, the cheese, which is mold. So it was all connected to diet. When I started doing research and took the extra time to learn about it, I reduced my asthma symptoms by half. And then eventually, I don't take asthma medication regularly. Like, I don't have to take it every week anymore. I have a rescue inhaler right here with me at all times. But I only have to, it was dusty. I actually had to wipe my dust off. I hardly ever have to use it anymore. And it's because of my research into what's good for you in relationship to food and allergies. I think, too, that some people are willing to, even though they know it's a fact, scientists have proven this, people still want to argue it because they just don't want to believe it. Don't you think?
Well, and you kind of led me to where I was thinking I was going. It's even still, you can present them with all this stuff, and it's still that you would be viewed by some, I'm sure, in your neighborhood as that crazy lady with the garden in her front yard.
Oh yeah. There's people who still think I'm full of crap, and that's okay, because when you look at the large scale of things, you can't win every person. It's like an election. You can't win every vote. You can't. And so you do the best you can, and you do what you believe in, and hope that will suffice, and that will be good.
So I'm curious for your answer to this question. And if I remember correctly, you said it was around when you turned 40 was when this kind of whole shift happened.
Yes, it was.
So my question to you is what prevented you from doing your best for so long?
Idiocy. Oh my gosh. I made excuses. I dragged my feet. I refused to, like all these things we're talking about, I refused to believe it. And then the big change happened when one day I woke up and realized, well, here's the story. My father died when he was 46 years old, and I was 12 going on 13. And that was like one of the most devastating things to ever happen to me in my life. And I was convinced my entire life that when I turned 46 years old, I would die. My father died. I'm going to die too. Well, guess what? He was a smoker. He didn't take care of his health. I do take care of my health. And I have surpassed my father. I am over 46. In some ways, as approaching that age, like when I got to around 40, it was my 40th birthday, and I realized I only have 6 years until I'm going to die. Wow. 6 years is going to go by so fast. What am I doing sitting around working for a company that I hate, being unhappy in my job? I love my husband and my family. That was all good, but the working situation was miserable. And I haven't done a single thing to help another person. I mean, I've raised my family, but I haven't done to help other people, to make a difference. I've not done anything. And it hit me. It really hit me hard. And so since then, I've done everything I can to change that. and worked very hard to do it. So I'm far from perfect, but I keep trying in my own way, in my own community, with my own family, to make those changes, because uh, every year I get after age 46, I consider a big bonus. And if I just waste it away, it's just wasting it away. I don't want to do that. I want to make a difference.
I have one rule on the show, and it's never to ask a lady her age on air. But no, but seriously, I think this is going to be interesting. And tell me if I'm hitting on anything. But so I centered this whole conversation around the idea of, primarily, what you hear from parents and their intentions, good or bad, or what they might think, and how they, transition them to their children and how they feel they should raise them. A lot of it being asthma, allergies, how to treat them, how to do what's best, how to feed them, how to educate them, all that fun stuff. And you just told me a story to where even, 30 plus years later, you still had on a belief that you were going to die when you were 46, even when you were 40. How powerful is this, the stuff that we're doing right now to our children, and those things that we're kind of, whether we knowingly or unknowingly are ingraining these things to them? Should we be paying more attention to these things that we think are the best, and the actual long-lasting impacts that they could have?
I believe so. I believe so. And the reason why, it goes back to what my rant was, which is, how come when you're a cancer victim, your doctor tells you you should be eating organic food because you're going to be overexposed to chemicals, and organic food will help keep your body more regulated. Why aren't they telling us that since birth, right? From the time we're born, you should be eating less chemicals. Here's the top 10 ways to do that. And no, we don't hear anything about that until we get cancer. So I think start from the time that a child is very young and teach them everything you possibly can about taking care of themselves, because they're the only people that are going to live in their bodies for the rest of their lives and be responsible for themselves ultimately, because you're going to die. You're going to grow old. You're going to go away. It happens. Our parents pass on. And then what are we left with? If we've not taught our children and given them a legacy of health and better understanding, then we haven't really done our job.
And this just kind of hit me too, as I was thinking while you were talking. And this will be the last question, I promise, and I will again, allow you to go back to your life without me in it.
Oh no!
And the idea is okay. So you have PBS trucks showing up on your front lawn. You have people paying attention to you to an extent that obviously was not the case just a few short years ago. So you've gotten closer to the top, if you will. Let's just use this as a visual here to say that you can kind of see over that horizon, and yet still predominantly we go walk into, if I were to go drive it down to Giant Eagle, they've expanded their organic section or whatever, but ultimately 90% of the stuff in there I don't want to buy, right? We've got an entire distribution system that is not necessarily put together with our best intentions. And it feels like people like you and others we've kind of created this kind of system on the outside, like this kind of, ragtag put together, like we're going to do it on our own kind of thing. How do we supplant that into, the mainstream? Is it possible? I always like to say, like, it shouldn't be called organic that's just a carrot, but they've actually made it unorganic, if you will. But
I love that you're saying this. I love that you're saying this, because I have to show you my book. So this is called Grow a Living Wall, and it's my most recent book. I've been very lucky. It sold out like in the first 30 days. They already reordered the printing of the book. I'm very lucky. But the reason that this is important, the book is significant, is because it's totally organic. It's totally all natural. But there's not the word organic anywhere on here. Same with my other book. I have a regional book that I published for Illinois and another one for Indiana. And these books are all organic, and yet the word's never used. And that's called mainstreaming green. It is, when you mainstream green, it is as it's supposed to be, and it with no extra chemicals or GMOs or anything, and you don't spend a lot of time saying the word organic in order to get that greenwashing effect. Instead, you're just teaching people how to do it. And so I'm already trying to do that. I think it's really, really important. One of my dreams, it's a secret dream because I've not talked about it a lot publicly, and I've not been able to get in touch with the right people yet to make this happen, but I would love to be in touch with the head of Google.org, And I want to find a way to get more people around the world, so globally speaking, growing their own food in their own small spaces. So if they have balconies, or if they live in an impoverished area and all they have is a fence or a tree, how do you grow a garden on that sucker? Well, I know how to do that, and I want to find a way to bring it to the world instead of just to the rich people of the world. Does that make sense? Where we're really doing a lot to make a global impact. And so that's part of what my goal. First, let's talk about mainstreaming green. Let's do it in everything that we do from a business perspective, and then let's take it to the next level and share that with other people and go global with our intentions.
That's interesting. I promised I was going to leave it there, but I can't, Shawna, I can't. I have to ask this question, and that's an interesting thing because, all right, so I'm big into this thing. Like, food is important to me, but for whatever reason, for the past, I've owned a house and I've had space to grow stuff for maybe 4 years now, and I don't, for whatever reason, I don't know why. It's like it's at the store. I can go get some organic peppers or whatever, and like you said, like I live in Ohio. It's Northeast Ohio. It's the winter. I can only grow for like 6 months or whatever, right? So I have like my harvest, and that's it. I feel like is that only kind of a temporary solution? Like, I mean, because like we will run out of that food at some point, and then we're just kind of conditioned like to have it, but then it's gone, and then like.
No, we have to get started doing it, because it's kind of like when heirloom seeds, heirloom isn't anything special except an older variety, right? Older variety of tomatoes, for instance. The reasons that some of the heirlooms disappeared is because people stopped growing them. They go away because you stop functionally using whatever it is that you might be growing. And so I think I disagree with you in the sense that I think that we need to keep growing more and more. And it's becoming intensely important because we do have a bee crisis. And the bee crisis there's mixed information out about it. Scientists are giving us two different tales of woe. And pollinators are not just bees, for instance. It's butterflies and beetles and flies and all kinds of different insects. And there's a lot of discussion about, let's save the bees. And what I'm telling people is, let's plant more pollinator gardens. There's a distinct difference there, because you can't go, are we injecting the bee homes with chemicals or smoke or the different antibiotics, or let's stop messing with that, and let's start focusing on the basics of pollination, because we're not talking about just saving plants. We're talking about saving humanity's food source. We need to keep all of those variety of fruits and vegetables in our lives in order to be healthier human beings. So when people are talking about saving the bees, I wish that they would instead say save the humans, right?
Well,
because
yeah, I mean, I do often wake up in a cold sweat sometimes thinking about the bee issue, as I've been kind of aware of it since college, I think, is when some college professor first told me about it.
It's been evolving. There's all kinds of different things that have been going on with it.
But that does freak me out. But so I guess maybe the question is not the I guess should that be I guess because people just don't have that natural inclination to do that. Let's say society has kind of created itself in a way that doesn't necessarily lend that ability to slow down and grow. Now, you can argue that should be or should not be the case, but should we put that on each individual person as a responsibility, or should we come up with maybe a backup plan, or some other solution that might say, all right, so maybe not everybody needs to grow their own food, but should we be doing it in some other fashion? I guess I don't know. I don't care enough about this one way or the other, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'd love to have all of us working together thinking of an answer. And there's always going to be, one person or another who says, I want nothing to do with this. Let the world die. Don't care about you. Don't care. I don't want any of your business. I just have my own little world. And we can't retrain those people. They have to want to come and volunteer and work with others to make it happen. So, for me, I'm only talking about the people that are the ones that are interested in making a difference and stepping forward and doing something about it. And I am not a scientist, so I have very little of the real data. I'm only privy to the data that is given in the media. And that's a whole, there's so much that we...
That's a whole other show, Shawna. That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other ball of wax. And so the point being, with what we know from what the media tells us, and what Scientific American tells us, and what we're trying to really figure out, why not grow a pollinator garden? Why not grow some vegetables for your family? And best yet, why not eat healthier and try to think about living a more organic life whenever it's possible?
So, and I promise I'm ending with this, and I asked those two questions to kind of get to this, because this is the solution that I would be interested in kind of working towards is if there was a company or somebody that was willing to go to, because we already have this distribution system in place for the, whatever the food is, or even the places that we eat, right? So there's a Subway like in every corner that we exist. So let's say if somebody wanted to go to Subway and say, all right, well, Subway, I know that you probably don't use these ingredients because of the margins and the costs and the overhead and the reasons, and you just don't care enough, right? So what if there was a company that could go to Subway and say, listen, we're going to get you a sandwich. We're going to start with one, or let's just start with your tomatoes, or just like you said, your version of eggs in Subway. And to say, listen, Subway, we're going to make a sprouted bun for you, or whatever, or we're going to have organic tomatoes or grass-fed cheese, whatever. If you want to put a whole sandwich together, fine, make a whole sandwich. But I guess if somebody could go in and slowly work their way into each of these already established distribution channels, is that a solution that we should be seeking, or should we just say,
Absolutely.
should we burn that to the ground and say we're just going to create our own new
No,
franchise?
absolutely. That's a solution we should all be seeking. We should all be demanding. Let's go out and demand healthier food. It's already happening with McDonald's, where there's a slow evolution. They've started to bring healthier choices onto their menu out of desperation, because if a consumer is not buying there and they're making the choice to buy at a healthier company, then the first company is going to go under. Unless so, popular demand is the answer. It is the only way to solve the problem. If everyone demands that we have healthy foods like they're allowed to have in Europe, right? They don't have chemicals over there. They get all the good stuff, and we get all the crappy stuff. Why? We should all be asking that question and come as a group forward to do something about it. Make your money count and purchase where it's a healthier place to eat.
Fantastic, Shawna. Well, I will let you off the hook with that. And if you can, give everybody at home one fearless action to take this week, something that you'd like to see them do to make that difference.
Okay, I have a challenge for you that's super easy in your house. One of the environmental disasters of our nation, believe it or not, is paper towels.
That's the paper. Yes, we had. This is how this whole show got started. Because I told you I have not been able to give up paper towels. It's been about 8 months since we had that show. But anyway,
I gave up paper towels. Let me tell you, it took me years, by the way, to give up paper towels. It was that hard for me. But here's the thing. Okay, so the trees are renewable because the trees are regrown. Like I'm cool with that. But in processing the paper towels, it takes bleach, tons of water, and they take this pulp and they bleach your towels, and they use the water, and then all the electricity and the heat and everything. It's not just the tree, it's all of the process. Then they have to deliver those suckers to your house. And another friend of mine said, well, you have to use bleach to clean your towels. So if you set towels out, you got bleach, sister. Well, I don't care what they look like. I rarely bleach my towels. I just set them in the kitchen. I don't use paper towels. I use like the white cloth towels, and I make sure I wash them all the time, with soap and water, not with bleach or other chemicals. And it works. So that's why, come on, people, give up paper towels. See if you can do it.
All right, Shawna. I'll tell you what, I'm going to see if I can make this last batch of paper. I got 3 or 4 rolls of paper towels sitting in my pantry right now. I'll see if I can make that be my last paper towel.
Do it, man. Do it. Convince your wife. Come on.
Actually, I don't know that she would need convincing. I'm more the paper towel hog than anybody in the family. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Where can people go learn more about you? You got a couple books. What do you want people to go do? Where can they find more about you?
Go to my website. My website is shawnacoronado.com. And you can find me, of course, on Google+. I'm here. Link through to me. I'm sure, Joey, you'll have me on the little link. But also, anytime, if you send me a question, I have my email and all of that out there on shawnacoronado.com. Please do, because I'd like to help you and maybe help you make a difference.
All right, fantastic, Shawna. And of course, if you guys want to hear what fearless question Shawna is most afraid to ask herself in her own life or business, well, head on over to fearlesslyquestioning.com, as that will be available if you go ahead and hop in there to find out exactly what it is she's most afraid of. And of course, Shawna, appreciate it as always. It was a pleasure. And hey, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right, we'll see ya.